Part 35. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuchi. Chapter 341. Such aim coal mine, in the grass. Senior Sue, could it be that the temperature of the sea of fire is too high and has completely burned you into confusion? Otherwise, how could you say such mindless words? Facing Su Zindong's threat, Zhang Fenjai's mocking voice immediately came from the sea of fire, which also made Su Zindong immediately use the most powerful sword technique based on the source of the sound. Changing clouds and rain. Accompanied by Su Zindong's violent shouts, the long sword immediately slashed out a sword energy like a violent storm, directly extinguishing the flames of the sea of fire in front of him. Although the sword technique used at full strength did not cut Zhang Fenjai, the range of the sea of fire destroyed by the sword energy directly exposed the grass on the edge of the formation. Su Zindong, with a look of surprise flashing in his eyes, used his body and martial arts skills without any hesitation, and rushed out of the grass with all his strength. But at this moment, a giant grey dragon appeared in front of him out of thin air and rushed over with its teeth and claws. At the same time, 16 peachwood swords appeared from all directions, directly piercing 16 vital points on his body, and Zhang Fenjai's humiliating taunts rang out from the sea of fire. Senior Su, it seems that your brain is really burned out by the flames of the sea of fire, and you don't even know the true and false strategies of attacking in the east and in the west. Zhang Fenjai, you deserve to die. The attack between the grey dragon and the mahogany sword forced Su Zindong to stop his sprint, but in less than a second, the passage leading to the edge of the grass in front of him was once again covered in flames. Therefore, after hearing Zhang Fenjai's humiliating sarcasm, Su Zindong shouted angrily, quickly swung his long sword to smash 16 peachwood swords, and then leaped into the air to slash at the giant dragon. Puff! Su Zindong, who had overdrafted his Danshan spiritual power in exchange for several times increased strength, successfully split half of the dragon's head with the long knife in his hand, but the pinching power of the remaining half of the dragon's head prevented him from successfully withdrawing the long knife and was directly hit by the dragon's claw. It was scratched hard, and 6 blood marks deep enough to see the bones immediately appeared on the chest and abdomen, and the internal organs almost flowed out. The severe injury he suffered in an instant made the furious Su Zindong wake up immediately. Since the long knife clamped by the dragon head is still made of condensed spiritual power, then with the thought contained in the long knife, you can completely control the long knife to disperse automatically. There is no need to personally control it, and you will not suffer attack and damage from dragon claw. Su Zindong, with a flash of self-blame in his eyes, immediately let go of the long knife in his hand and stepped back, using his mind to disperse the long knife that had concentrated spiritual power. But at this moment, he suddenly felt a pain in his heart, and then he saw the tip of a sword about 3 centimeters long protruding from his chest. Feeling dizzy and weak, Su Zindong fell directly to the ground, and then turned to look at Zhang Fenjai, who was rushing over. Relying on the strong vitality given by the 6th level of foundation building, Su Zindong, who will not die for the time being, plans to directly detonate the spiritual power of Danshan, and then use the method of burning together to perish with Zhang Fenjai. But at this moment, 3 silver needles suddenly appeared in Zhang Fenjai's hand, piercing his eyebrows, Danshan, and heart out of thin air at an incredible speed. The moment his brow was stabbed by a silver needle, before his consciousness instantly fell into coma, when he saw Zhang Fenjai scattering the sharp sword with condensed spiritual power, he used the silver needle that appeared out of thin air in his hand to stab his heart one after another. Call. First, he used the silver needles of the Taoist artifact to stop Su Zindong's constant loss of vitality, and then used the acupuncture method of Suangi 13 needles to repair the heart that had been pierced by the sharp sword, so that the heart could regain its weak vitality. Zhang Goya let out a long sigh of relief. If it were not for the need to use the living Su Zindong to exchange for the monitor Chuang Jian, he would not need to take the risk of reducing the power of the Feng Shui formation and almost let the other party escape smoothly with his strong strength, nor would he try his best to treat the other party. After using his mind to withdraw the two Taoist silver needles in his dantian and heart, leaving only the silver needle that sealed the opponent's consciousness, Zhang Fengjai stood up and dispersed the grey dragon condensed with earth elements, then bent down and picked up Su Zindong and left the Sea of Fire. The moment he left the Sea of Fire, his right foot suddenly hit the ground hard, knocking out 9 talismans buried in the soil. He mobilized the spiritual power of his dantian and took a deep breath, blew the 9 fire talismans into the Sea of Fire, then turned around and went straight to the gate of the coal mine. However, when he was passing by the office building, he unexpectedly saw a black car parked in front of the building. He suddenly thought of the deal Wu Lu mentioned, and rushed to the car with a sudden move in his heart. After temporarily placing Su Zindong on the roof of the car, he went around to the back of the car and opened the trunk directly. Because he clearly remembered that before the exchange of fire between the two sides, there was a young man holding a Type 92 pistol who never left the trunk until his death, so he concluded that the items Wu Lu traded must be hidden in the trunk. After forcefully opening the tight trunk, I found 3 wooden boxes of different sizes and a brand new laptop in the trunk. Without too much hesitation, he reached out and opened a slightly smaller box, and found 3 ancient and old copper coins placed inside. For some reason, when he saw the 3 old copper coins placed in the wooden box, he felt an illusion of absolute control over his future destiny, which made him subconsciously reach out and grab the 3 coins. Boom! Immediately afterwards, he had a kind of enlightened mood that no one can see when the clouds are clearing and the moon is bright when there is no storm. He could vaguely grasp the future destiny of heaven and earth, and at the same time, he finally knew the origin of these 3 copper coins. According to legend, King Wen of Zhou, the founder of the Western Zhou dynasty, had 3 copper coins in his hand that could calculate the heaven and earth, the gods and immortals, and the demons and monsters. At the same time, it was with these 3 mysterious copper coins that King Wen of Zhou created the Zhuyi, which has been passed down through the ages and is revered by Taoist physiognomists. Of course, the 3 copper coins in his hand are not the 3 mysterious copper coins that King Wen of Zhou used to create the Zhuyi, but the counterfeit copper coins that were forged by a fortune teller who was proficient in the Zhuyi when the Western Zhou dynasty was about to perish, with his own efforts and a part of the remaining national destiny of the Western Zhou dynasty. Although it is just a counterfeit and does not have the ability to predict everything in the world, it is also a rare treasure that has entered the level of Taoist instruments. At the same time, with the help of these 3 counterfeit copper coins, he is confident that he will completely surpass his third grandfather in the future practice of physiognomy. He never thought that a thief from the secular world could actually get a rare Taoist weapon. He was so excited that he quickly opened the second wooden box in the trunk and found a wine vessel from the Western Zhou dynasty. He took out the vessel and felt it carefully. After finding that it was just a relatively precious ordinary cultural relic, he put it back into the wooden box with a little disappointment. Then, he reached out and opened the third wooden box in the trunk. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yunyu. Chapter 342. Suchain coal mine, in front of the office building. Zhang Fengjai couldn't help but take a breath when he saw that in the third wooden box in the trunk of the luxury car, there was a jade tiger that was about 20 centimeters tall, nearly 40 centimeters long, and sky blue in color. While feeling cold, there was a look of shock in his eyes. Aquamarine, produced from the bottom of the boundless sea, is a kind of jade condensed from the essence of sea water. It is a priceless treasure. The lifelike jade tiger carving must be from the top jade carving master. This kind of carving method that gives life to art is also a priceless treasure. The characteristics that are slightly different from modern tigers and the carving techniques that are completely different from modern ones are enough to prove that this jade is also a cultural relic from the Western Zhou dynasty. This kind of jade that gives a historical and cultural flavor is a priceless treasure that cannot be measured by money. In other words, even if the tiger jade carving in front of you is not a Taoist artifact, Its market value is definitely in the billions. What's more, through the careful feeling between the palm of his hand and the tiger jade, he vaguely felt that even if the tiger jade was not as rare as a Taoist artifact, it was definitely not an ordinary thing that ordinary people could polish. Unexpectedly, the ambush battle that temporarily modified the Feng Shui layout not only successfully killed all the foundation building experts of the Supernatural Research Institute, but also unexpectedly harvested rare Taoist artifacts and jade artifacts. However, looking at the sword weapons and tiger jade objects in the two wooden boxes, and then looking up at Su Zindong on the roof of the car, the joyful look in Zhang Fenjai's eyes was gradually replaced by embarrassment. Because the ware and the tiger jade ware are both rare treasures and relatively large cultural relics, they can only be stored in wooden boxes, which are suitable for shock absorption and concealment. At the same time, he needs to take away Su Zindong, who is nearly 1.85 meters tall, to exchange for Zhuang Jian. In this case, he would not be able to take away the three cultural relics and Su Zindong at the same time. Moreover, due to the driving influence of the two elements of earth and fire, the entire mining area will completely collapse in 3 to 5 minutes or 8 to 10 minutes, making it impossible to carry the three cultural relics and Su Zindong in batches. His eyes moved from Su Zindong's body to the luxury car, and then recalled the process of starting and driving it by Zhu Zhenjun and Zhuang Jian. The embarrassed look in his eyes was gradually replaced by determination. After closing the trunk forcefully, Zhang Fenjai opened the rear door of the luxury car and was about to put Su Zindong on the back seat, when a look of surprise suddenly appeared in his eyes. Because lying on the back seat of the limousine was the charming beauty who had been with Wu Lu. He stretched out his hand to test the other person's nose and found that his breathing was steady and strong. Immediately afterwards, he checked his pulse again and found that the other party had just fallen asleep due to the acupuncture being tapped. Although the consequences of rescuing the other party may expose the secret of obtaining the three cultural relics, it is not his style to deal with people without saving him. What's more, the other party is a beautiful woman with a devilish figure. Therefore, he did not hesitate too much and directly unlocked the acupuncture points that caused the other party to fall asleep. "Don't be afraid, girl, I have killed the murderers who hurt you. You are safe now." When he saw the beautiful girl slowly opening her eyes and opening her mouth to scream, Zhang Fenjai quickly reminded her road. He sat up suddenly and turned to look at Zhang Fenjai, who had a clear and sincere look in his eyes. The frightened look in the beautiful girl's eyes gradually calmed down. Then, she glanced at the bodies lying scattered outside the car window, and leaned back on the seat with a sigh of relief. Seeing that the beautiful girl was completely quiet, Zhang Fenjai secretly breathed a sigh of relief, moved Su Zindong down from the roof of the car, and then placed it next to the beautiful girl and explained. "Girl, I'm so sorry. I need to take this guy to save a good friend, so I can only wrong you for the time being." After closing the door forcefully, he walked around to the front of the car and sat in the driving position. Then, based on his memory of observing Zhu Zhenjun and Zhuang Jian driving, he began to look for a way to start the car. But then what made him feel extremely depressed was that the black luxury car in front of him was completely different from Zhu Zhenjun's Bugatti Veyron and Zhuang Jian's business car, and the driving method in his memory was not applicable at all. "Don't you know how to drive?" After waiting for nearly 2 minutes, there was no sound of the luxury car starting. This made the beautiful girl sitting in the back seat very puzzled. Afterwards, she looked through the rearview mirror in the car for a while, and found that the thin boy who rescued her was still groping for the basic introduction to starting the luxury car, which made her couldn't help but frown and ask. "No," Zhang Fenjai nodded frankly and admitted. "Then you still dare to drive?" the beautiful girl asked in disbelief as she looked at Zhang Fenjai with wide eyes. "Is there nothing I can do about it?" Shrugging his shoulders, Zhang Fenjai replied helplessly. At the same time, he also decided to let Sulitzi and Zhuang Jian teach him how to drive in the near future to avoid encountering such a helpless dilemma. "I'll drive it," He dared to try to drive a luxury car despite not knowing how to drive. Zhang Fenjai's adventurous spirit that was not afraid of death made the beautiful girl dumbfounded. At the same time, she could only volunteer to stop his stupid and bold act of seeking death. "You know how to drive?" Zhang Fenjai suddenly asked in surprise. "What did you say?" After giving Zhang Fenjai an unhappy look, the pretty girl got up and sat in the driver's seat, then skillfully started the luxury car and drove away from the office building. Just as the luxury car arrived at the gate of the mining area, the weeds and abandoned factory buildings in the coal washing area suddenly began to collapse, and continued to affect the miners' dormitories and office buildings. Boom! Looking at the buildings and ground that continued to collapse in the mining area behind through the rearview mirror, the pretty girl asked with shock in her eyes. "What is going on?" After withdrawing his attention from the collapse of the mining area, Zhang Fenjai turned his head and looked at the pretty girl with shock in his eyes, with a hint of hesitation in his eyes. Originally, secret things like the Supernatural Research Institute and Feng Shui formation were not something that ordinary people like the pretty girl could access and know, but considering the 3 precious cultural relics in the trunk, especially the 3 Taoist copper coins that can calculate fate, and the tiger jade worth billions, he felt it was better to let the pretty girl know about the Supernatural Research Institute and Feng Shui formation. Because this would allow her to be in awe, but she would not dare to casually reveal to others the secret of having obtained 3 precious cultural relics. Therefore, after careful consideration, Zhang Fenjai decided to confess everything and began to tell the true origins of Su Xindong and others, how he used the transformed Feng Shui treasure land to ambush Su Xindong and others, and that the reason for the collapse of the mine area was due to the loss of control of the Feng Shui formation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 343. After hearing Zhang Fenjai truthfully reveal the secret unknown to the world, the beautiful girl suddenly braked and stopped by the roadside, and then her eyes showed a look of shock and thought. In fact, at the moment when the 2 sides just fought, Su Xindong and others were able to condense various cold weapons out of thin air, and could intercept bullets from submachine guns and pistols with bare hands, which had already made her suspicious. However, due to the influence of her own age and experience, her suspicion only extended to those martial arts masters in martial arts novels who could fly over eaves and walls and grab white blades with bare hands. At this moment, hearing that in the real world where she lives, there are actually immortal cultivators and monsters imagined in online novels, which not only directly breaks the worldview she adheres to, but also makes her heart emerge with a trace of unrealistic delusion. After taking a deep breath and barely calming down her inner shock, the beautiful girl restarted the luxury car and began to tell her own experience with a calm expression. "My name is Ge Yongxia, I'm 23 years old this year, and I'm the lover of Wu Lu, the deputy leader of the thief section. I was an orphan since I was a child, and I grew up by picking up rags and eating leftovers from the trash can. When I was 14, I was abducted by human traffickers to the mountains to become someone else's wife. But because I couldn't have children, I was sent to a bath center by a man who was more than 30 years older than me to make money. Later, when I was 18, Wu Lu, the deputy leader of the thief sect, bought me for 5,000 yuan, and then became his nominal lover, but actually a nanny and a tool for abuse. Sometimes I wonder if I did something in my previous life that was so irritating that I had to suffer such miserable torture in this life." At this point, Ge Yongxia's calm face gradually twisted, and her tone became hysterical. "But why? Why does God want me to pay for the sins I committed in my previous life? I don't accept it. I want to change this miserable life." Suddenly breaking and turning her head to look at Zhang Fenjai, Ge Yongxia's eyes showed desire and a hint of madness. "As long as you are willing to help me, make me stronger, and make me a superior person, then I am willing to be your lover for life and meet all your needs, even if they are not human requirements. Alas. After mobilizing the spiritual Danshan to open the sky eye, Zhang Fengjie carefully observed Ji Yongxia's fate and couldn't help but sighed and ordered. Drive to the city first, and let me think about it carefully. Originally, with his kind-hearted character, facing Ji Yongxia who had experienced such a miserable fate, he should help her. But through using the sky eye to observe her face just now, he not only did not intend to help, but a strong murderous intent gradually emerged in his heart. Because Ji Yongxia's fate belongs to one of the millions of wolf-killing fates, which is commonly known as 10 grams. She is unlucky for her father, mother, brother, younger sister, husband, son, heaven, and earth. If we evaluate it according to the relationship of cause and effect, then the sins she committed in her previous life are not just as simple as the wrath of heaven and people, but have reached the level of intolerance of heaven and earth. Generally, people who commit such sins need to endure punishment for at least 10 lifetimes before they can eliminate the reincarnation of the 6 domestic animals of sin. If he helps her, not only will he not change her miserable fate, but he will also be implicated by the cause and effect and will encounter unpredictable dangers. If he forcibly changes her miserable fate, with the distorted psychology caused by the wolf's fate, he may make a cause and effect and heavenly punishment that he cannot even bear. Therefore, whether for the sake of his own future safety or to protect the secrets of the 3 precious cultural relics in the trunk, he must find a way to end Ji Yongxia's life in advance. Of course, it can be regarded as helping her end her punishment in one lifetime in advance, or it can be said that he repays her kindness of driving him to the city. While driving steadily, Ji Yongxia secretly observed Zhang Fengjie. Since she was sold to a bath center at the age of 17, and followed Wu Lu until she was 20, the special and complex environment has honed her ability to observe words and expressions. Although Zhang Fengjie, who was leaning on the chair, had closed his eyes and did not speak, she knew from the subtle changes in his eyebrows and forehead that Zhang Fengjie was very entangled about whether he was willing to help her change his fate. The reason for the entanglement was probably related to her own dirty experiences. After all, men are a group of selfish animals. The younger the man, the more he values the first time of that kind of thing. But in the face of an experience that he could no longer change, if he wanted to weaken Zhang Fengjie's uncomfortable thoughts, he could only use his superb skills and special hobbies to satisfy him and get his willingness to help him. Thinking of this, Ji Yongxia observed the surrounding environment, and her eyes finally stopped on a secluded road with cornfields on both sides. Slowly drove into the small road, slowly stopped the luxury car, and then unbuckled the seat belt and reached directly to Long Yang. At the moment when Long Yang was caught, Zhang Fengjie, who was still hesitating whether to take action, immediately made up his mind to get rid of the other party. For the resentful mentality of the world, Ji Yongxia would do anything to achieve her goal. Even if it was an ordinary person without any ability, she would do some extremely evil things. However, considering that Ji Yongxia still needed to drive him to the city to exchange Zhuangjian, Zhang Fengjie opened his eyes and grabbed her wrist, and said in a gentle tone. After rescuing my friend, find a more comfortable hotel. Okay. As long as you are willing to accept my service, it means agreeing to my request. This made Ji Yongxia happy. She nodded and agreed to start the luxury car and slowly backed out of the alley. Although my experience is tragic, the special entertainment environment has also allowed me to practice extraordinary skills, which will definitely make you enjoy it forever. I am looking forward to it. After Zhang Fengjie smiled and gave the other party a longed-for reply, he took out his mobile phone and began to contact Zhuangjian in order to have a dialogue and negotiation with the foundation building strongman who could monitor her. In the most luxurious presidential suite of the 5-star Accord Hotel, Zhuangjian, who was sitting cross-legged on the blanket in the living room, although she looked like she was meditating, she would occasionally squint her eyes and glance at Han Lan, who was sitting cross-legged on the sofa and meditating with her knees bent, and her heart could not calm down for a long time. After all, the Supernatural Research Institute's operation to kill Zhang Fengjie not only involved a large number of powerful men with exceptional strength, but was also carefully planned and arranged. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 344. Accord Hotel, in the Presidential Suite. Et. When Zhuang Jian squinted her eyes and observed Han Lan quietly for the 9th time, she unexpectedly found that Han Lan, who had always remained calm, suddenly frowned slightly, which made her feel nervous. Because Han Yian's frowning action showed that Zhang Fengjie might have started a fierce confrontation with Su Xindong and others, and had a slight advantage. 1 minute later, Han Yian's slightly frowned eyebrows gradually locked, which made her nervous, and she couldn't help but feel a little surprised. Because this meant that Su Xindong and others might have suffered losses during the confrontation, and there might even be some casualties. 3 minutes later, Han Yian's tightly locked eyebrows suddenly relaxed, but her tightly closed eyes suddenly opened, and she flashed in front of her, and then her right palm containing spiritual power directly slapped her forehead. Although she wanted to dodge and resist, the huge difference in strength made her wait for death. However, when the palm containing spiritual power was less than 1 centimeter away from the forehead, Han Lan suddenly stopped the palm strike, and a strong look of doubt appeared in his eyes. After waiting for nearly 3 minutes, Han Lan, who suddenly retracted his palm, stood up and warned with a cold look. "Don't move, otherwise, I will immediately destroy your cultivation." Then, she walked to the windowsill of the living room, stretched out her hand to push open the window, and looked at the northeast of Ningji City with a worried look in her eyes. 5 minutes later, in the suppressed and silent room, a beautiful but sad mobile phone ringtone suddenly sounded. Mandarin ducks live together and butterflies fly together, the spring scenery in the garden is intoxicating, quietly asked the holy monk, "Daughter, hurry up and answer the phone." Han Lan turned around suddenly and ordered anxiously. After receiving Han Yian's instructions, Zhuang Jian quickly took out her mobile phone and took a look. She found that the number displayed on the caller ID was Zhang Fengjie, so she quickly answered the call. Then, Zhang Fengjie's voice came from the phone. "Teacher Zhuang, ask the foundation building expert next to you to answer the phone." When she heard Zhang Fengjie's voice on the phone was steady and powerful, without any sign of injury, Zhuang Jian secretly breathed a sigh of relief and raised the phone to Han Lan. "Uncle Han Lan, Zhang Fengjie wants to talk to you." "Boy, how is brother Su?" Han Lan asked nervously after quickly taking the phone. "Don't worry, he won't die for the time being." Zhang Fengjie's cold voice came from the phone immediately. "Boy, if brother Su has any problems, Han Lan, will definitely let you. He won't die for the time being," which means that he must have been captured alive with serious injuries, which made Han Lan feel distressed, and she immediately threatened him harshly. But before she finished her threatening words, she was interrupted by a scolding from the phone. "Shut up. You." The elite of the Suzaku Brigade of the Supernatural Research Institute, a strong man in the foundation building realm, even the provincial governors would be polite to her when they saw her. A mere casual cultivator inherited from a family, a small follower in the Qi condensation realm, dared to scold her harshly, which made Han Lan so angry that she didn't know what to say. "If you still want to see Su Xindong alive, then take Zhuang Jian to the water park now." Without giving Han Lan the opportunity to further inquire about Su Xindong, Zhang Fengjie hung up the phone and ordered Ge Yongxia. "Yongxia, hurry to the water park." "Got it?" After nodding in response, Ge Yongxia suddenly accelerated, and the black luxury car rushed to the water park 10 miles away like a black dragon. With skilled driving skills and ignoring the traffic rules of traffic lights, Ge Yongxia, who drove the luxury car, only took 5 minutes to get to the water park. "Yongxia, Follow me. Zhang Fengjai got out of the car and supported the still unconscious Su Zindong, and a cold light flashed in his eyes and ordered Ge Yongxia. I'm coming. Ge Yongxia, who didn't notice the cold light in Zhang Fengjai's eyes at all, quickly pulled out the car key and followed him, and took the initiative to help Su Zindong to the pond deep in the park. At this moment, the mobile phone in his pocket suddenly rang. Boy, we're here, where are you now? The moment the call was connected, Han Ian's impolite questioning voice came from the phone. By the pond at the deepest part of the park. After hanging up the phone, Zhang Fengjai turned his head and looked at the southeast direction of the park. Soon, Zhuang Jian, who was rushing over, and a beautiful woman in a white dress appeared in his sight. When he saw Zhuang Jian safe and sound, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief, and then reached out to take out the silver needle that sealed Su Zindong's consciousness. Senior brother Su, are you okay? Han Lan, who rushed to the pond in an instant, looked at Su Zindong, who was supported by Zhang Fengjai and Ge Yongxia, and asked with concern and worry in her eyes. Yezi, are you okay? Zhuang Jian, who rushed to the pond right after him, also asked with concern and worry in her eyes. Compared to Su Zindong, who had just regained consciousness and didn't know what was going on for the time being, and didn't respond to Han Yan's concern, Zhang Fengjai replied with a smile. Teacher Zhuang, I'm fine. Boy, hand over my senior brother Su immediately, otherwise, I will kill Zhuang Jian now. The sharp sword condensed by spiritual power instantly pressed directly against Zhuang Jian's neck, and Han Lan threatened fiercely. Let go of teacher Zhuang immediately, otherwise, I will turn Su Zindong into a dead body now. The silver needle that appeared in his hand instantly pressed directly against Su Zindong's temple, and Zhang Fengjai threatened fiercely. Okay, then let's exchange at the same time. Looking at the silver needle emitting cold light, vaguely piercing the skin at the temple of senior brother Su, Han Ian's eyes flashed with a trace of heartache and panic, and she immediately nodded in agreement. Then, she gestured to Zhuang Jian to walk towards Zhang Fengjai, while using her mind to control the sharp sword to continue to press against her neck. Yongxia, trouble you. While motioning Ge Yongxia to help Su Zindong walk towards Han Lan, she also used her mind to control the silver needle to press against his temple. Senior brother Su. Teacher Zhuang. While retracting the sharp sword and silver needle at the same time, Zhang Fengjai quickly grabbed Zhuang Jian's arm, and Han Lan immediately hugged Su Zindong in his arms, and then checked each other's bodies at the same time. Using the method of pulse diagnosis, Zhang Fengjai was completely relieved when he found that Zhuang Jian was not injured. Han Lan used spiritual power to check Su Zindong's injuries. When he found that he had a sword wound that went directly through his chest and back, and a wound that had not yet fully recovered from his heart, he immediately showed a strong murderous aura and pointed the sword at Zhang Fengjai, gritting his teeth and scolding. Zhang Fengjai, you deserve to die. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 345. Water Park, by the pond. Facing Han Lan, who might attack at any time, Zhang Fengjai immediately pulled Zhuang Jian behind him, and then quickly used his Danshan spiritual power to condense a sharp sword to fight back. Smelly woman, don't be shameless. Believe it or not, I will destroy you and Su Zindong right now. Facing Zhang Fengjai's tough and insulting reply, Han Lan, who was gradually unable to suppress the strong murderous desire in his heart, was about to kill Zhang Fengjai and Zhuang Jian when the wrist holding the sword was suddenly grabbed by Su Zindong, and then he reminded weakly. Junior sister Hanlin, don't get too entangled with Zhang Fengjai for the time being, and take me back to the base for healing. Boy, don't let me see you again in the future, otherwise, I will cut you into pieces. After threatening Zhang Fengjai with a sword, when Hanlin helped Su Zindong to leave the pond, he unexpectedly saw Ge Yongxia, who was stunned by the strong murderous aura. A faint black cross appeared on his brow, and he was suddenly shocked and shouted silently. Road. Wolf's Destiny, the 10th generation of evildoers. Yongzia, come back quickly. When he also noticed that Ge Yongzia was suffering from strong murderous intent, Zhang Fenjai's face changed slightly and he immediately gave instructions loudly. Oh! Han Ian's voiceless shouting and Zhang Fenjai's loud reminder quickly woke up the sluggish Ge Yongzia. After instinctively responding, she turned around and walked towards Zhang Fenjai. But at this moment, Su Zindong weakly tried to persuade him. Girl, please wait a moment. Perhaps because Su Zindong's tone of solicitation was more sincere and gentle, or perhaps because she was wary of the terrifying momentum Hanlin had just inspired, Ge Yongzia obediently stopped and turned to look at Su Zindong. Girl, do you want to live a life of glory and wealth? Do you want to have the identity and status of a master? Do you want to become a strong person respected by the world? Taking a deep breath, resisting the pain from the wound in his heart, Su Zindong's expression, he said with gentle temptation. Think. She was willing to use her special skills and hobbies to serve Zhang Fenjai because she hoped to obtain the temptation Su Zindong just mentioned, so Ge Yongzia nodded vigorously without any hesitation. Join our Paranormal Research Institute and you will get everything I just promised right away. Ge Yongzia agreed so readily, which made Su Zindong, with a look of surprise in his eyes, immediately agree. Yongzia, have you forgotten the agreement between us? Zhang Fenjai, with a flash of regret in his eyes, reminded him as calmly as possible. This. Facing the promise given by Su Zindong and Zhang Fenjai's reminder of the agreement between them, Ge Yongzia suddenly seemed hesitant. Girl, the boy named Zhang Fenjai in front of me is just a powerless orphan. He can't give me what I just promised. Hesitation represented heartbeat, which showed that the conditions Zhang Fenjai had given before were not superior enough. At the same time, it also shows that the girl in front of her who has the fate of defeating the wolf is a very greedy person. Therefore, Su Zindong, who had already figured out her character, took out a black exquisite credit card from his pocket, handed it directly to her and said. Black gold credit card, 20 million overdraft limit, this is the first benefit you get from becoming a paranormal researcher. Do you need me to pay it back? Ge Yongzia, who looked at the exquisite black card with a trace of longing in her eyes, asked cautiously. At the end of every month, there are dedicated accounting staff in the office to help you repay. You can spend whatever you want, pay whatever you want, consume whatever you want, or even consume the entire amount within a month. Putting the black gold card directly into Ge Yongzia's hand, Su Zindong smiled and gave her an explanation that completely moved her. At the same time, because you have a very special physique, not only can you directly receive the treatment of a core disciple, but you can also obtain a villa in the imperial capital and a murder license under reasonable conditions. A credit card with a limit of 20 million, an imperial villa worth tens of millions, and the power to decide the life and death of others at will. Isn't this the life I dream of? Looking at the black gold credit card in her hand, recalling her miserable life of more than 20 years, and the uncontrollable greed in her heart, the hesitation in her eyes was gradually replaced by determination. Ge Yongzia turned to Zhang Fenjai and bowed to apologize. Zhang Fenjai, I'm really sorry. I decided to become a member of the Supernatural Research Institute. Have you thought about it? Zhang Fenjai, whose eyes gradually became cold, asked with an indifferent expression. I've already thought about it. Nodding vigorously, Ge Yongzia retreated directly behind Su Zindong and Hanlin. If that's the case, then you all can stay with me today, Zhang Fenjai said as cold as ice as his mind directly mobilized the second Earth sword energy in the sea of consciousness. Zhang Fenjai, before you do anything, please take a look at what this is. He could clearly feel the sharp sword in Zhang Fenjai's hand, and suddenly there was an aura that made him feel fatally threatening. This made Su Zindong's face change slightly, and at the same time, he immediately signaled Han Lan to take out a sword that was old in color and exuded an ethereal aura of spells. Border-breaking talisman. When he saw the old talisman that Han Lan took out, Zhang Fenjai's expression suddenly changed slightly and he told him the origin of the talisman. That's right, it's the boundary-breaking talisman that can tear apart space. After just one glance, he recognized the origin of the almost extinct talisman. This surprised Su Zindong and at the same time, he nodded quickly and threatened. Zhang Fenjai, this boundary-breaking talisman is still a gift from Uncle Liao Chen. There is a trace of his old man's thoughts in the talisman. If you dare to take action, then I will immediately activate the boundary-breaking talisman and let Uncle Chen take action himself. Regardless of whether it was the heavenly sword chi given by Third Grandpa or the life-saving trump cards given by those special beings in Shushan, they could only deal with those below the peak of the 9th level of foundation building at best. Taoist priest Liao Chen is already a top expert who has touched the realm of golden elixir. He is a powerful being that cannot be dealt with by his life-saving trump card. Therefore, facing Su Zindong's threat of using the boundary-breaking talisman, Zhang Fenjai's eyes flashed with a look of unwillingness. He retracted the earth sword, dispersed the sword with sword energy, and then looked at Ji Yongxia and said, I hope you won't regret it in the future. No, as long as I can change my previous destiny, I will never regret it. Ji Yongxia clenched her fists and gestured. Hey! Let's go, Zhang Fenjai sighed and waved his hand. Zhang Maple Leaf, the green mountains will not change, the green water will always flow, we will see you again in the world of mortals in the future. After handing over and leaving a harsh word, Su Zindong quickly left the pond and the water park with the support of Han Lan and Ji Yongxia. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 346. Water Park, by the pond. Just after Su Zindong and others quickly left the water park, Zhuang Jian put her arm around him and asked with doubts in her eyes. Yizi, what is the fate of the wolf? Why do you and Su Zindong value that girl so much? After all, she also knew how precious the boundary-breaking talisman that no one could refine was, and how powerful Taoist master Liao Chen was. Without rejecting Zhuang Jian's intimate move, Zhang Fenjai looked at the direction Ji Yongxia left and explained solemnly. Teacher Zhuang, the so-called wolf can defeat life, which is commonly known as the 10 karma of life. It can defeat death by defeating father, mother, brother, sister, husband, son, heaven, and earth. All her relatives who are related by blood are also evil people who have been condemned by heaven and earth. Generally, people with this kind of destiny have different souls and physiques from normal humans. Because this special physique not only allows her to easily gather and absorb the resentment and blood evil energy between heaven and earth, but also has an omnipotent soul that can restrain the bottleneck of the realm, allowing her to break through the realm unimpeded. It can even overcome the bottleneck of the golden core realm, giving her a 50% to 60% chance of hitting the golden core realm. Qi. Easily gather the huge amount of energy needed to advance to a new realm, easily break through the bottleneck of cultivation and advance to a new realm, and have a 50% to 60% chance of advancing to the golden core realm. After hearing Zhang Fenjai's introduction to Wolf's fate, Zhuang Jian couldn't help but gasped and sighed. No wonder you and Su Zindong value that girl so much, and even use the trump card to save your life. It turns out that her fate is so terrible. Teacher Zhuang, if it was just that simple, I wouldn't have competed with Su Zindong for Ji Yongxia's ownership just now, because I'm not that kind of narrow-minded person. After taking a deep breath and a look of self-blame flashing in his eyes, Zhang Fenjai said with a worried tone. Because she was born to kill all her relatives and friends around her, Ji Yunan suffered very miserable and unfair treatment from the moment she was born. This also caused her inner feelings towards all human beings in the world and towards the life we live in. The sky and the earth are filled with endless resentment and hatred. If she is allowed to master the supernatural power of making wind and rain, then there will definitely be unimaginable bloodshed and endless heinous crimes in the future. Yezi, since you know that girl is so terrifying and dangerous, why didn't you tell me in advance? Although Zhuang Jian did not continue what she said next, Zhang Fengjai already knew what she wanted to express and couldn't help but reply with a wry smile. Teacher Zhuang, do you think I don't want to kill you in advance? Then, he took Zhuang Jian to the black luxury car on the side of the park, opened the trunk and two wooden boxes, and continued to explain. If I hadn't taken away Su Zindong's sealed consciousness and these two rare cultural relics at the same time, I would have killed her directly the moment I discovered her fate as a wolf in the mining area. How would I have allowed Su Zindong to win over her? Opportunity to recruit her. Yezi, how much is this tiger jade worth? Compared to the old, damaged and unrecognizable artifact, Zhuang Jian's attention was immediately attracted to the sky blue tiger jade artifact, and there was a look of love in her eyes. After carefully observing the texture and carving art of the tiger jade, she was shocked and wanted to know the true value of the tiger jade. If it's a black market transaction, it's about 3 billion. If it were to be auctioned, it would probably exceed 5 billion. The market auction price of more than 5 billion is only due to the quality of the tiger statue, the value of its carving art and its historical heritage. If the secret hidden in the tiger statue can be discovered, the auction price in the market may increase exponentially, or even fetch a terrifying sky-high price that will shock the entire world. After hearing Zhang Fengjai's price for tiger jade in the market auction, Zhuang Jian finally understood why he wanted to keep Ji Yongxia alive. After all, anyone who knows him well knows the fact that he can't drive. So, if you want to take away the two precious treasures and Su Zindong at the same time, you can only keep Ji Yongxia, who can drive, temporarily. At the same time, the reason why he left Su Zindong alive and brought him to the water park in person was to save himself from Han Lan. This moved Zhuang Jian, and she also began to think of ways to comfort him. Thoughts of blame and regret. Yezi, in fact, that girl's choice to become a member of the Supernatural Research Institute may be an unexpected good thing for you. Teacher Zhuang, what do you say? Zhang Fengjai asked in confusion after covering the two wooden boxes and the trunk of the luxury car again. Yezi, if you think about it carefully, the 3 attacks against you by the Supernatural Research Institute have caused heavy losses to 28 foundation building experts. This will definitely arouse the thunderous wrath of several high-level officials. Whether it's to avenge your dead subordinates or to preserve the reputation of the Supernatural Research Institute, several high-level officials will definitely send strong men with higher cultivation levels to hunt you down. However, the unexpected discovery of a girl who has the fate of being a wolf and has the ability to hit the golden elixir realm. Several senior officials will definitely feel ecstatic, and at the same time, they may not care about the heavy losses in the 3 encirclement and suppression operations. I even guess that they may give up their revenge on you temporarily, and then go all out to train that girl, so that she can become the pillar of the Supernatural Research Institute, which will give you more time to practice. Continuing to hold his arm, Zhuang Jian explained with wisdom in her eyes. At the same time, since that girl will be full of resentment and hatred towards everyone in the world because of her miserable fate. Then, when she really grows up, the first target of revenge will probably be the Supernatural Research Institute that has trained her with great difficulty. In this case, it can not only weaken the strength of the Supernatural Research Institute and reduce their pressure to retaliate against you, but also give you more time to improve your cultivation and strength. Isn't it both advantageous and disadvantageous? After hearing Zhuang Jian's detailed explanation and speculation, Zhang Fengjai pondered carefully for a while, and felt that her speculation just now was indeed reasonable, and the self-blame and regret in his heart suddenly disappeared. Afterwards, he couldn't help but reach out to help her tidy up her slightly scattered hair, and thanked her with a trace of tenderness in his eyes. Teacher Zhuang, thank you. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 347. Water Park. Facing Zhang Fenjai's first tenderness since they met, Zhuang Jian felt a little shy and sweet at the same time. She couldn't help but raise her head and close her eyes, waiting for his more passionate response. But at this moment, a group of silver-haired uncles and aunts walked toward the park chatting and laughing. Not only did they ruin the ambiguous and tender atmosphere of the scene, but they also made the paper-thin-skinned Zhang Fenjai immediately pretend to be a gentleman. Appearance. Zhuang Jian glared fiercely at the uncles and aunts who had ruined her good deeds. Unwilling to give up, Zhuang Jian suggested in a coquettish voice. Yezi, go to my place. Glancing at the setting sun, Zhang Fenjai shook his head and refused. No, let's go back to the villa in Guanghehua Mansion first. Seeing the disappointed look flashing in Zhuang Jian's eyes, Zhang Fenjai explained unbearably. Teacher Zhuang, Brother Zhu comes back from the provincial capital tonight. I need to discuss with him the renovation project of Liuyuhang village to see how we can reasonably occupy the Four Spirits Soul Condensing Array so that it can continuously provide us with enough practice in the future. The Spirit Bead. Having said this, he reached out and patted the trunk of the luxury car. Moreover, we will now temporarily store these two priceless cultural relics in the safe in Brother Zhu's villa. After hearing Zhang Fenjai's explanation, Zhuang Jian's disappointed mood suddenly eased a lot, and then she stretched out her white jade hands and said with a smile. Okay, then I'll drive you to the villa now. Teacher Zhuang, what do you want? Zhang Fenjai asked in confusion as he looked at the jade hands stretched out in front of him. Car keys. After she couldn't help but give him a look, Zhuang Jian reminded him helplessly. How can you drive without a car key? Thinking that Ge Yongxia was responsible for driving and locking the car, and the key to the luxury car must be on her, Zhang Fenjai couldn't help but slap her forehead and suggested. Ge Yongxia took the car keys away, why don't we take a taxi? You. He knew clearly that there were two priceless cultural relics stored in the trunk of the luxury car, but he gave the car key that could open the trunk to others casually. Zhang Fenjai's careless character made Zhuang Jian shake her head even more helplessly, then took out her mobile phone and made a call. The waiting time was not very long, about 5 minutes, and the business car Zhuang Jian usually drove parked steadily next to the luxury car. Then, a beautiful girl with a stunning appearance, graceful figure, cool temperament, and a laptop bag got out of the business car. Find a way to deal with this luxury car. Zhuang Jian reached out to take the car keys handed over by the girl. Zhuang Jian glanced at Zhang Fenjai, who was looking at the girl, and ordered with a hint of displeasure in her eyes. The girl, who didn't say a word from the beginning to the end, walked straight up to the luxury car, then took out a special instrument from her computer bag and clicked on the luxury car a few times. Immediately afterwards, the locked door of the luxury car opened automatically. Then, the cold girl got into the car directly. Yezi, let's go. Seeing Zhang Fenjai, who had been staring at the cold girl, Zhuang Jian opened the trunk of the luxury car, picked up the wooden box containing the tiger jade, and reminded her with a somewhat unhappy tone. Coming. After responding, Zhang Fenjai quickly picked up the wooden box containing the weapon and got into Zhuang Jian's business car. Yezi, do you need me to introduce that girl to you? After starting the commercial car, Zhuang Jian teased, feeling very dissatisfied when she saw Zhang Fenjai's eyes still staring at the girl. Not hearing the dissatisfied teasing in Zhuang Jian's tone, Zhang Fenjai frowned slightly and asked. Teacher Zhuang, who is that girl? Snort. Zhuang Jian, who also didn't notice Zhang Fenjai's frown, snorted with an even more dissatisfied expression and said angrily and sarcastically. She is the subordinate who listens to me the most. If you like her, I can help you arrange it. The dissatisfied snorts and sarcasm made Zhang Fenjai finally realize Zhuang Jian's jealous state, and couldn't help but reach out and scratch her nose to criticize. Teacher Zhuang, we have known each other for a short time. Am I, Zhang Fenjai, the kind of person who thinks with the lower body? Then why are you so interested in Yiwen, Zhuang Jian asked, still dissatisfied. Destiny. Through the rearview mirror of the business car, Zhang Fengjai said with a flash of surprise in his eyes when he saw that the luxury car without the car key had restarted. The sixth palace is tightly closed, and the life palace is purple. This is the first time I have seen such a weird destiny. Yizi, why is the sixth palace closed and the life palace purple? Zhuang Jian asked in confusion. The so-called six closed houses refer to the six aspects of the parents' palace, the brother's palace, the sister's palace, the children's palace, the male and female palace, and the husband and wife palace. It means that Yiwen had no father, no mother, no brothers, without a sister or a sister. He will be alone for the rest of his life without a husband or children. After hearing the explanation given by Zhang Fengjai, Zhuang Jian couldn't help but frown and asked. Yizi, if I follow your explanation just now, wouldn't Yiwen be exactly the same as the girl who has the fate of being a wolf? No, it's completely different. After shaking his head to deny Zhuang Jian's guess, Zhang Fengjai explained further. The sixth house is closed. It's just fate that keeps her far away from her blood relatives and misses her future emotional belonging. This kind of fate will neither hurt her relatives nor generate any resentment or hatred in her heart. At the same time, the fate palace is purple, which means that after abandoning all the constraints of family affection and love, her career and luck will become unimpeded, and she will achieve unimaginable achievements in the future. Zhuang Jian, with a look of enlightenment in her eyes, began to introduce Yiwen's origin in detail. Yizi, Yiwen is 24 years old this year. She was originally a top student majoring in computer information engineering at the Normal College. It was just by chance that I discovered that her 7 meridians and 8 channels were naturally unobstructed, so I had the idea of cherishing her talent. Not only did I teach her the basic cultivation method privately, but I also used some connections to let her stay in school to teach so that she could help me deal with some personal matters. Later, as I got to know her better, I found that she not only had the qualifications that were not inferior to elite disciples in the practice of Taoism, but also had a talent close to that of a demon in computer programming. A year ago, with her talent in computer programming, she was able to use her self-made Trojan virus program to easily break into the bank's network system in 5 minutes, modify the depositor's deposit information at will, and transfer the amount in the bank account at will, and guarantee that she would not be discovered afterwards. Originally, I wanted to recommend Yiwen to the Supernatural Research Institute as a credit for improving my performance, but now. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 348. In a business car. Although he has no in-depth contact with the internet and computers, the ability to easily invade the banking system of a country and then steal money from the bank with his Trojan horse programming skills is enough to prove Yiwen's evil talent in computer programming. At the same time, when the 7 meridians and 8 meridians are naturally unblocked, a part of the innate energy from the mother's body will remain in the body to a greater or lesser extent, which is very suitable for taking the path of martial arts. Therefore, after having the same thoughts as he did to Zhang Jinghui and Du Yui, Zhang Fengjai gave instructions to Zhuang Jian. Teacher Zhuang, if you have time, please take Yiwen to Brother Zhu's villa and let me have a look. If her physique, talent, and character are qualified, I will personally guide her in her practice. No problem. Already knowing that Zhang Fengjai was not obsessed with Yiwen's beauty, and at the same time wanted to help her indirectly, Zhuang Jian's unhappy mood was swept away and she quickly nodded in agreement. I will bring Yi to see you in 2 days. In the following period, Zhuang Jian, who was in love with her, began to use words and body movements to tease Zhang Fengjai. The desire and anger aroused by Ji Yongxia also made him temporarily let go of his moral restraints and respond enthusiastically to Zhuang Jian's teasing. When the business car slowly stopped in front of the gate of Villa number 7 and saw the familiar Bugatti Veyron sports car, Zhang Fengjai got out of the car and rushed into the villa quickly. Zhuang Jian, who stopped the business car, shook her head with a hint of helplessness in her eyes, then picked up the wooden box containing cultural relics and walked into the villa alone. After rushing into the villa excitedly, Zhang Jiyi was a little surprised to see Xiao Yuxuan and Du Yui, chatting with He Tongtong, who was in a bad mood. Zhu Zhenjun was leaning on the sofa with a gloomy face. He suddenly asked worriedly, "Brother Zhu, what trouble have you encountered?" "Brother, you're back." Hearing Zhang Fenjai's caring voice, Zhu Zhenjun stood up quickly and greeted with a smile on his face. "Brother Yezi, hello." He Tongtong also quickly straightened his posture and greeted, "Hello, sister-in-law." After simply returning the greeting to He Tongtong, Zhang Fenjai motioned for Zhu Zhenjun to sit on the sofa and asked in confusion, "Brother Zhu, I see that you are frowning and worried. Are you in trouble?" "Well." Turning his head and looking at He Tongtong with a sigh, Zhu Zhenjun started to talk about the experiences that made him angry and depressed. Although he created his own business kingdom from scratch with his monster-like business acumen and gained a certain say in the family, in the final analysis he is still a direct descendant of the Zhu family and is still bound and affected by the family rules. Especially for his marriage, not only should he be well matched, but it should also be conducive to the development of the family. But what about He Tongtong? He is just an ordinary college student from a rural area. He has neither a strong family background nor advanced knowledge, and his appearance is not to say that he will be a king. In a top wealthy family like the Zhu family, a girl like He Tongtong, let alone the daughter-in-law of a wealthy family, is not even qualified to be Zhu Zhenjun's lover. Therefore, when faced with He Tongtong, who took the initiative to visit her, and faced with Zhu Zhenjun's request to marry her, one can imagine the Zhu family's reaction. If it weren't for Zhu Zhenjun's certain voice and intimidation power, and if it weren't for his desperate defense, He Tongtong might not even be able to return to Ningji City alive. After all, for a top wealthy family like the Zhu family in a provincial capital, killing an ordinary woman from the countryside is as easy as killing an ant. Knowing Zhu Zhenjun's deep feelings for He Tongtong, and knowing that he has a somewhat twisted and upright personality, there is absolutely no way he would give up on his hard-won relationship with He Tongtong, even if he does something crazy to do so. Therefore, Zhang Fenjai neither asked him about his attitude towards feelings nor the consequences of offending his family, but asked directly, "Brother Zhu, what do you want to do next? What do you need me to do?" "Brother, if I want to marry Tongtong openly, I must either become the patriarch of the Zhu family, or break away from the family and establish my own branch." As early as the moment when the family flatly refused to accept He Tongtong, Zhu Zhenjun had already thought of a solution, but he needed Zhang Fenjai's help to do it. This was also the reason why he hurriedly returned to Ningji City with He Tongtong. Reason: although I am 70% sure of winning the position of clan leader, the Zhu family, which has been inherited for nearly 50 years, has completely changed. Not only have the clan members become selfish, but the internal management of the family is chaotic and the hierarchy has been completely solidified, making the entire family like a terminally ill cancer patient, with the possibility of bankruptcy and destruction at any time. Faced with the patriarch of such an old, decayed and run-down family, I have no interest in fighting for it. I am even more worried that the property I have finally accumulated will be dragged into the quagmire by the family and unable to stand up. So, I decided to break away from my family and create my own new family, Zhu Zhenjun. Brother Zhu, I will fully support you. To set up his own family and create his own family, although he will lose the support of the wealthy family behind him, he will also lose the constraints and restrictions of the wealthy family's rules, which will allow Zhu Zhenjun to fully display his ambitions. So, facing the idea of the only brother who won his trust and wanted to start his own business, Zhang Fenjai immediately made his own promise. "Brother, thank you." After hearing the promise made by Zhang Fenjai, Zhu Zhenjun was immediately moved and stood up to thank him. "Brother Zhu, do we brothers still need to be so polite, After motioning Zhu Zhenjun to sit down, Zhang Fengjai criticized with an unhappy look. Haha, it's all my fault. The brotherhood revealed in the criticism made Zhu Zhenjun laugh happily for a few times, and then he immediately put away his face and said with a smile. Brother, if I want to break away from the control of the family and start my own business, I need to solve two more difficult problems. Brother Zhu, you say, Zhang Fengjai waved his hand to indicate. The first thorny issue is the personal safety of Tong Tong and me. Because the clan leader and several elders are cruel and ruthless, if they knew that I had the idea of leaving the family and setting up my own business, they would definitely send experts to secretly assassinate me and he Tong Tong. Brother Zhu, I will not only live in the villa for a period of time in the near future, but also arrange feng shui formations around the villa to ensure the absolute safety of you and your sister-in-law. At the same time, if your sister-in-law goes out to do things, let Ezi accompany her. As long as she is not a foundation-building expert in the Taoist sect or a martial arts expert in the innate realm, Ezi can solve all the problems. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 349. Guanghe Washington Mansion, in Villa Number 7. Faced with the first thorny problem mentioned by Zhu Zhenjun, Zhang Fengjai immediately gave a solution. At the same time, Du Yue quickly held her pink fist and assured her. Sister Tong Tong, don't worry, as long as someone dares to hurt you, Ezi will turn him into a popsicle. Thank you, Ezi. Not only did he know the identity of Zhang Fengjai Taoist monk, but he had also witnessed his immortal-like methods with his own eyes. So, the people who can be valued by him are definitely not ordinary people. Therefore, he Tong Tong did not underestimate Du Yue's age at all, but solemnly thanked her. The second thorny issue is that I need to accumulate more wealth than my family within 3 years. As long as their accumulated wealth exceeds that of the family, they will not be able to use financial means to stop me, and the connections they have made will not dare to easily deal with me. Regarding the second thorny issue mentioned by Zhu Zhenjun, Zhang Fengjai thought about it for a moment, then shrugged. Brother Zhu, I know nothing about business matters except for blowing fire on a pole. I'm afraid I can't help you much. No, brother, not only can you be of great help, but you are also the key to my confidence that my wealth will exceed that of my family within 3 years. After shaking his head to deny Zhang Fengjai's modest point of view, Zhu Zhenjun said solemnly. Brother, there are 3 most profitable businesses in China today. The first is the financial industry, the second is the jadeite industry, and the third is the real estate industry. I have already been involved in the financial industry at the beginning of my business. This is an important means for me to earn nearly 1/3 of the Zhu family's wealth in just a few years. And raw jadeite is an industry that relies on luck, skill, and vision, and can achieve huge profits in the shortest time. Having said this, Zhu Zhenjun looked directly into Zhang Fengjai's eyes and asked with a tone full of expectation. With the vision and methods of my brother Taoist monks, I should be able to tell whether there is jade in the raw stone, right? Yes, I am sure I can see the internal structure of the original stone and tell whether it contains jadeite, but... After thinking carefully for a while, Zhang Fengjai nodded and then made his request. 1/3 of the final profits from all the rough stones that I have personally selected will be donated in the name of my Taoist master King Xiu. No problem. For a piece of raw stone containing jade, from the transaction price to the final sale of polished jadeite, the profit can be as little as 10 times, as much as dozens of times, or even hundreds of times. Even if 1/3 of the profits are donated, it is still the most profitable industry. Therefore, Zhu Zhenjun nodded in agreement without any hesitation, and then continued to introduce the third hugely profitable industry, which was also real estate that he had been planning for a long time. Although the real estate industry cannot reach the level of profit making from jadeite, the profits obtained are not inferior to those of the financial industry. At the same time, since real estate is not only related to land's fiscal revenue, but also involves dozens of downstream industries, in addition to earning huge profits, it can also improve one's identity and status, which can in turn deter some of the connections the family has made. Brother Zhu, just tell me what I need to do. Since the Yongsheng Group he currently works for is a company that specializes in real estate, he is very aware of the benefits of getting involved in real estate, but he doesn't know what he can do from it. Therefore, there is no point in directly interrupting Zhu Zhenjun's beautiful description of the real estate industry and directly asking himself. Choose projects suitable for development based on Feng Shui. After getting up and leaving the living room, he came to the door of the villa. Zhu Zhenjun pointed to the villa area of Guanghe Huafu and said, "Brother, 5 years ago, this place was still a large area of unfinished buildings that failed to be developed. After the chairman of the Kowloon Group, Chen Yunhan, took over, he specially hired a top Feng Shui master and then redeveloped and built it according to the Feng Shui of the stars. In the end, he not only successfully built the first high-end villa area in Ningji City and earned a net profit of nearly 600 million, but also made friends with a large number of top dignitaries in Ningji City through the process of selling villas. It can be said that he gained fame and fortune." Double harvest. Withdrawing his finger pointing at the villa area, turning around and looking directly at Zhang Fengjai, Zhu Zhenjun said with excitement in his eyes. "Brother, although I have decided to get involved in the real estate industry, I am not greedy for short-term profits. I want to build my own brand of high-end communities, boutique villa areas, luxurious resorts and leisure areas, and landmark complexes. Plaza to develop supporting tertiary service industries. So, I need to use my brother's expertise in Feng Shui formations to help me select a Feng Shui treasure land that can gather wealth, blessing, and luck to meet the needs of long-term development." "No problem. Choosing a Feng Shui treasure land suitable for development is not only a good thing for the people and brothers, but also can indirectly enhance the knowledge and experience of Feng Shui formations through the selection process. There is even a chance to encounter a geomantic treasure land similar to the four-spirit soul condensing formation." Therefore, when facing Zhu Zhenjun's request, Zhang Fengjai readily agreed and at the same time explained the reason why he was eager to meet him. "Brother Zhu, now there is a Feng Shui treasure land suitable for you to develop and build a high-end community." "Really, where is it?" Zhu Zhenjun immediately asked excitedly. "Located in the southeast of Ningji City, it is developed by the government." Afterwards, Zhang Fengjai told Zhu Zhenjun everything about the renovation of the old city of Liuxingshu, the special Feng Shui of the Liuxing village cemetery, and the right to develop the village from Zhulang Group with the help of Zhuang Jian's special identity in the Supernatural Research Institute. After hearing Zhang Fengjai's detailed introduction, Zhu Zhenjun turned back to the living room, took out a bottle of national liquor from the refrigerator and sat on the sofa. While using alcohol to make his mind active, he carefully thought about the pros and cons of developing Liuxing village. In response, Zhang Fengjai did not interrupt his thinking and told He Tongtong and Xiao Yuxuan. "Sister-in-law, Yuxuan, it's getting late, you go make something delicious." After He Tongtong and Xiao Yuxuan took Du Yue to the kitchen, he took out 2 bottles of beer from the refrigerator and threw one to Zhuang Jian, then drank the wine while waiting for Zhu Zhenjun's final decision. "Drink it." Zhu Zhenjun, who had only drunk less than a quarter of a bottle of white wine, suddenly slapped the coffee table hard and said to Zhang Fengjai excitedly, "Brother, although Zhulang Group is the leader in the real estate industry in Ningji City, in my eyes, Zhu Zhenjun, it is just a relatively strong little snake. Even if teacher Zhuang doesn't help, I can make Chen Yunhan honestly hand over the old village renovation project." The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 350. Guanghe Huafu, in Villa Number 7. Brother Zhu, the cemetery in Liuxing village cannot be developed to make money, and it also needs to be maintained and repaired for a long time to ensure that the naturally formed feng shui formation will not be damaged. Then, as the ultimate beneficiaries, Mr. Zhuang and I will also contribute our own heart. Zhu Zhenjun finally made the decision to develop Liuxing tree, which made Zhang Fenjai's heart finally fall smoothly. At the same time, considering the cause and effect and not wanting to owe too much favor, he decided to provide help within his ability. First, Mr. Zhuang will use the special identity of the Supernatural Research Institute to help you obtain the old city renovation project and reduce your direct conflict with the Kowloon group. After all, a strong dragon does not suppress a local snake. Not having too many disputes and conflicts with Chen Yunhan can also speed up the renovation of the old village. Second, I will provide a feng shui trend map for the old city renovation, and focus on marking the places that need to be renovated and paid attention to, so that your company's designers can plan and design. After all, the residential areas and villas built in feng shui treasures not only help to improve the living environment and conditions, but also facilitate the promotion and sales of real estate. Third, Mr. Zhuang and I will provide 200 million yuan in funds, which is considered as our purchase of the right to use the cemetery for 50 years. In this way, it can also reduce the financial pressure of your company, so as not to cut corners in the construction process and eventually build inferior houses and villas. Yezi, I don't have that much money. When hearing the third agreement given by Zhang Fenjai, Zhuang Jian hurriedly reminded in a low voice. As the person in charge of monitoring the supernatural phenomena in the entire Ningji city, although she has great power and can even sometimes use the power of the government, her actual personal income is not that much. In addition to the fixed annual salary of 1 million, she can only get a living allowance of 20,000 to 30,000 yuan a month and travel expenses. As for the credit card with a limit of 10 million, it is a special fund for special purposes and can only be spent on supernatural cases or to receive strong people and leaders of the Supernatural Research Institute. For example, used to buy the business bus needed by Su Zindong and others, including the presidential suite used by Lan Terest, and the losses caused by the process of capturing evil cultivators and monsters, etc. At the beginning, she used the credit card to buy medicinal materials because the wrong family would reimburse her for the card swiping fee afterwards. Therefore, she has only saved less than 5 million in savings in the past few years, and she can't take out a huge sum of hundreds of millions. Teacher Zhuang, don't worry, I'll pay for your share. Zhang Fenjai smiled and gestured after taking a look at the 2 wooden boxes in the living room. Whether it was the 3 copper coins of the Taoist artifact, the tiger jade artifact with hidden secrets, or the precious cultural relic, they were all treasures he accidentally picked up in the mining area. He had not used any Taoist magic, so there was no influence on his luck, and it would not consume the wealth he had been accumulating. Therefore, he planned to sell the wine-filled artifact through legal means to obtain 200 million funds to purchase the right to use the cemetery for 50 years. During the time they knew each other, Zhang Fenjai not only risked his life 3 times to save himself, but also was implicated by the Supernatural Research Institute, which sent 3 foundation building masters to hunt him down. And what about himself? He had never given Zhang Fenjai any help, but now he needed him to take out the karma for eliminating the formation of the spirit pearl. Zhuang Jian felt guilty and moved, and decided to go back and seriously learn all the skills in the island country's film to repay Zhang Fenjai's unrepayable kindness. Brother, you know I lack everything except money. You don't need to waste 200 million to buy the right to use the cemetery for 50 years. Zhu Zhenjun could understand and accept the first 2 agreements proposed by Zhang Fenjai. Only the third agreement made him feel a little uncomfortable. Because he always felt that Zhang Fenjai seemed to want to draw a certain line with him. Brother Zhu, we have known each other for a long time. You should understand how much I lack money and love money. You should also know that I will not be polite to brothers who recognize me. Faced with Zhu Zhenjun's tactful refusal to pay, Zhang Fengjai immediately put away the smile on his face and joked solemnly. If it weren't for the four spirits soul condensation formation formed in the Liuxing village cemetery, which was related to the secrets of my teacher Zhuang's cultivation, I would not only not pay a penny, but also ask you for labor fees for surveying the Feng Shui treasure land, and the price would be at least 8 figures. Okay, I agree to the 3 agreements you just proposed. The joke revealed the deep friendship between brothers, which made Zhu Zhenjun's uncomfortable feeling disappear immediately, and he readily accepted his agreement to purchase the right to use the cemetery for 50 years. Afterwards, the 3 people began to discuss matters that need to be paid attention to during the renovation of the old city, and to prevent possible revenge from Chen Yunhan. Of course, Zhang Fengjai also took the opportunity to propose compensation for Xiao Yuxuan's demolition and purchase a minimum-sized house at cost price. In response, Zhu Zhenjun readily agreed to give Xiao Yuxuan the highest compensation for demolition, allowing her to go from a poor student who was about to graduate to a rich and beautiful woman with a house. This also made Xiao Yuxuan so excited that she toasted Zhu Zhenjun 3 glasses of white wine at the table. Saturday, although it is a statutory holiday, is the busiest day of the week for the staff of Ningji Talent Building. Because they need to hold a large-scale comprehensive job fair every week to meet the needs of the labor market. Among them, there are as many as 200 companies contacted for recruitment, involving dozens of types of work and thousands of jobs. At the same time, since the talent building is a government-run public welfare institution, the recruitment of job seekers is completely free, which leads to tens of thousands of job seekers being attracted to each large-scale comprehensive job fair. As the saying goes, 1,000 people, the earth is connected to the sky. 10,000 people, there is no end. When Zhang Fengjai took a taxi to the front yard of the talent building, he was completely shocked by the dark crowd in front of him. Although there were more than 20 temporary security guards to maintain order, the scene became more and more lively and chaotic with the increasing number of job seekers. Yezi, there are too many job seekers here. Since next summer is the senior year graduation season, when Xiao Yuxuan learned that Zhang Fengjai was invited to attend a large-scale comprehensive job fair today, she persuaded him to come along.